Mr. Wilburn, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Representing Educational District 1, Ms. Katie Howard.
Present.
Representing Educational District 2, Mr. Tony Mitchell.
Present.
Representing Educational 3 and Board Vice Chair, Dr. Ken Zeff.
Present.
Representing Educational District 4, Ms. Jennifer McDonald.
Present.
Representing Educational District 5, Ms. Erica Mitchell. She is present via Teams. Representing Educational District 6, Ms. Patrice
Present.
Representing Educational District 6, Ms. Patrice Hutcherson.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 7, Mr. Alfred Chivy Brooks.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 8, Dr. Casey Brock.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 9 and Board Chair, Ms. Jessica Johnson.
Present.
Also present, we have our Superintendent, Dr. Brian Johnson, our General Counsel, Nina Gupta, and we also want to welcome Mr. John Henry from North Atlanta High School. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 4th, 2026 board meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved by Board Member McDonald and seconded by Board Member Brooks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the June 1st, 2026 board meeting?
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member McDonald, seconded by Board Member Zeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, Board, we have three updates. We have our standing strategy update. Travis Norvell will give an update, end of year strategic plan. Lisa Bracken will give our normal monthly financial update to highlight the FY as well as highlight the FY27 budget that you'll be considering for approval. And then the final presentation will focus on policy, in which we have two policies that we'll highlight. It'll be a combination of Dr. Siobhan Mincy, Bonnie Lapwood, and Carolyn Barnett that will take us through student technology use, as well as tax allocation district investment review committee. So, Mr. Norvell, we are now ready for your presentation.
Great. Good afternoon, Board Chair, Vice Chair, board members, John Henry. Welcome. Looking forward to sharing our end of year report to you all. So just like our mid-year report, I'm going to be the voice of this report, but I will be looking and warning my colleagues behind me and next to me to be ready for the detailed questions you are sure to ask. This report covers a little bit of everything going on in APS, and all aligned to ensuring that we are one district and one goal for every child. So just as a reminder, we are organized into 6 focus areas, our plan is, ranging from strengthening our instructional core all the way to ensuring our systems are efficient and effective. This framework ensures that all of our work is aligned to our key performance indicators, ultimately meeting our goals. Much of this will not be new information for you all. We have spent each month diving a little bit deeper into one of our at least one of our strategic objectives for each of our focus areas. Our strategic plan website also captures all of these, both the recording and the presentation. So if someone wants to dive a little bit deeper into one area, we probably already have it posted for you. This is going to be a snapshot of each one of our focus areas going forward. Going forward next school year, we're going to bring it up a level and focus on the focus area. That's the caring for every child, strengthening instructional core. Instead of looking at the pieces individually as kind of silos, we're going to bring it up one level and tackle one per board meeting. We'll share that draft plan around as it's aligned to when we receive certain data points. Speaking of the data, here's what drives our plan. The first row, as a reminder, are some of our bold goals, things that we'll work on individually and with partners out in the community, ensuring we have universal pre-K for 3 and 4, our $100,000 average teacher salary, individual success plans for every student, and then community hubs. Many people in this room, whether it's Joanne Wyckoff for the first one, HR for the salary, we have Jennifer Williams in the back for individual success plans, and then our community hubs with Chelsea Montgomery. The primary goals that were driven by our student achievement goals are 3rd grade literacy, 8th grade math, and college and career readiness. Easy to remember, we're improving by 20 points by 2030. So here are some key takeaways, right? This is the ChatGPT version of our end of year report. we have achieved a lot as a group. The board, administration, community, those in the schools together. We have all-time high AP results. We have a balanced budget, which you'll hear from this evening. Academic achievement and record in multiple areas, whether it's SAT or ACT, highest area educator compensation, beating the odd records, employee engagement records. We've made a lot of progress this year and looking forward to sharing some of those areas tonight. But we also are driven by recognition outside of the ones that we identify internally. So state recognition has shared that 34 schools are beating the odds across APS. This is an increase of 6 schools from last year and our largest leap in a decade. These are the schools highlighted from GOSA, Georgia Office of Student Achievement. We also have received national recognition. Hopefully you saw this both in the press as well as some internal sharing, that Harvard and Stanford did a study and identified APS as one of the districts on the rise based on our improvements in reading and math. So we saw improvements of more than 0.4 grade level since 2022, and while similar districts in Georgia saw declines. These are examples of that data for both reading and math for APS compared to similar districts. Now let's dive into each one of the focus areas. I'm not going to touch on everything. That you can kind of treat this as a report where you can dive deeper into it if you're interested. I'm going to highlight a couple areas in each bucket, starting with data, then some of the work that led to the data. To start with, for the instructional core, most of our data points here, we don't have the actuals because they come from the milestones assessment. So we will get that in the fall, but we will share some leading indicators that help know whether we're on track or not. That's what you see here. So while we're still waiting on Georgia milestones results, we have our fingers crossed. We do see positive growth in some of our leading indicators. For example, right score for 3rd grade. We saw increases this spring in every subgroup, every student group. The Amira reading assessment, same thing. We saw increases across subgroups as well as decreasing those students that scored at our lowest levels. We also saw some of the leading indicators point in the positive direction for 8th grade math. We saw our PSAT benchmark increase, and then access to algebra that we know is a gateway for future math work increased in each one of our student subgroups. And you can see that with economically disadvantaged Black and Hispanic students. Here's some of the work that we've done. The focus has been on high quality instructional materials, our universal K-12 instructional framework. Dr. Payne and Mincy have shared a lot of this over the year, as well as launching accelerated literacy model, a lot of our work with textbook adoption, curriculum adoptions. You're going to hear more about accelerated literacy, middle school literacy pilot, and some of those areas this fall as we continue to implement that work. For caring for every child, we're starting to see some mixed data in our key performance indicators for these. So what I'll do is I'll use this chart as an example on how to read it, since the last one didn't have any data. So we'll use this one. So in this one, if the background color is colored in, then that means we have the final data for the year. So for example, our surveys were already completed, so that's why we have data for sense of belonging or student and staff relationships. If it's red, it means we did not meet our goal and it declined, right? So we're seeing that in some perception data, which is a great key for us to dive deeper into and see, is it certain student subgroups? Is it grade levels? Is it certain schools? What's happening in this perception data? If it is gray, that means that it improved but didn't meet our goal. So it's working its way up but didn't meet our 2026 progress point. And if it's green, it shows that it did meet our goal. The asterisks, will identify the numbers we currently have. So as of May 26th, these are our discipline data. We will update all of this as we get the latest year-end data throughout the next couple months. So here's some of the work that we've done this year. You'll see us broken down into some additional data points outside of the KPIs, our key accomplishments and next steps. We formalized restorative practice tracking and implementation in 56 schools. We're moving forward by implementing a comprehensive mentorship ecosystem to really get to that student-staff relationship and sense of belonging, as well as diving deeper into what's causing our suspensions. You'll also see on this slide, this is the first one that has identified an equity commitment. You may remember that we have equity commitments. As part of strategic planning, we embedded those equity commitments into our strategic plan, so they didn't sit as a separate standalone body of work. They're embedded. but we wanted to call out where those priority equity commitments fall within each one of these focus areas. So you can see an example here on the restorative practices for addressing disproportionate discipline. For sparking student curiosity, you can see we've exceeded our extracurricular activities progress point and are on track to meet our Beyond the Core goals. We're improving but fell short on our post-secondary enrollment, and additional data will come as part of CCRPI this fall. And so we'll be able to update that this fall in our student curiosity presentation when we get those final numbers for CCRPI. Here's some of the work. We saw record growth in our workforce credentialing with over 1,000 credentials earned, which is a 48% increase year over year. Record AP scores that I mentioned before. And we're moving forward with expanding our college and career readiness opportunities, particularly through our innovative school models under Shelley Goodrum. She would also be upset if I didn't use this opportunity to highlight our summer advising program, which is launching. Dr. Brock and Board Member Hutcherson recommended diving deeper into this counseling space, particularly in the summer. And so we've launched that. As of today, we have 133 students who have made appointments to set up to meet with a counselor this summer, one of our professional school counselors. Please be sure to push the word out so that they can attend and ensure that they are college and career ready before they even go to school this fall. Just like the literacy and the math leading indicators, while we wait on our CCRPI indicators, we are seeing positive progress. So I mentioned that we're seeing increases across all subgroups for AP exam performance. We're also seeing increases at SAT and ACT, and our participation in IB and dual enrollment has improved. Across almost every subgroup, you'll see one student down in Hispanic and white students for dual enrollment, but increases across the board in those two programs. Next, we're going to jump to our strength as our team. This is where Felicia Lester and her team will be smiling, and they've shared this good news throughout the year since a lot of their data comes a little bit earlier in the year. So here we have improved in every indicator and meeting the goal in 4 of the 5, and I don't think she's too worried about compensation. I think that is on track to meet our 2030 goal. So these are record results in many cases across the board. I'll mention in a minute the teacher effectiveness measure work that is taking place. And here's the work that she and her team have done to get there, whether it's the strengths work, engagement work that led to an Exceptional Workplace Award, or offering professional learning opportunities and credentialing, and ensuring that we're giving raises to job duties outside of teachers. As we look to move forward, our HR team has been hard at work filling school vacancies to ensure that we are day one ready, which will be the first presentation in August, is our day one readiness. This is one of the areas we're diving deeper into, is to the teacher effectiveness measure. So while we know we're retaining teachers at a great rate and paying them and engaging them at record rates, we now have to work on ensuring that the teachers that we have are making the greatest impact. So right now, the Georgia DOE teacher effectiveness model really only captures data from milestones. We are reworking that model internally to look at MAP, particularly K2 MAP, but this will allow us to support individualized data for teachers across different contents and grade levels that may not have milestones data. So to expand our ability to understand teacher effectiveness. So our HR team and our data team under Kathy Howell are working to define this one further. For our responsibility is shared, we're seeing increases across the board with family engagement and fundraising totals increasing. Also a reminder for parents to make sure you're logging into your parent portal where there's great information on grades and attendance and discipline and news from your school. We're looking to continue to improve those areas. This year, we launched a new website with Nicole Lawson's team. We have expanded the capacity and the impact from Atlanta Partners for Education with Katie Post, and Carl Hill just hosted our first cohort of Leadership APS. Thanks to those of you who are able to support our first class this school year. We're looking to deepen those efforts, particularly around clear engagement and communication. We look forward to working with the board on how to do that in a clearer, more planned, proactive way with our community this coming school year. And then last focus area is our system is efficient and effective. Most of this is under Dr. Bradshaw's shop, and where you can see is we have improvement in all areas and in meeting our goals in about half of them. The one area we didn't improve is the schools meeting our K-12 enrollment minimums, but that will be addressed as part of the APS Forward 2040. You'll know we identified these measures prior to approving those decisions in December. So as we get the latest data on meal participation and transportation, you'll see updates to this one. Today, a lot of the work that's happening in the system is efficient and effective. You will see reflected in our board agenda. Balanced budget up for final adoption, first time since 2023. You'll see SPLOST information, the tax relief for homeowners, our work with repurposing and facilities, a number of areas outlined in our board meeting just this evening. So we look forward to continue doing some of that work, particularly around a transparent redistricting conversation that will take place this fall, building out transition teams for those schools who are transitioning to ensure a seamless experience for students and families. And so we are looking forward to getting more information out about that soon so that families can plan this fall to support. You all have been right in the thick of it with your policy work. Tonight, we could probably add another 5 or 6 policies on here. Didn't fit on the slide, but we'll wait for the next one. Here are some examples of the policies that you all have approved this year aligned to our strategic plan. And then the next few slides are about Charter Partner School update. So as part of it, we thought we would roll in the annual Charter Partner School update into the regular APS update. As a reminder, our Charter and Partner Schools are assessed annually across 5 different areas: academics, climate, finances, operations, and governance, our charters and partner schools. I'll dive in a little deeper into each of those areas. These are our current charter schools. You'll see when the school was founded, when their current charter term expires, and then some notes. For example, you'll see the Centennial, KIPP, and Condesi were granting conditional charter renewal in 24-25. You can see those in the notes. As a reminder, no new startup charter petitions were submitted this year as part of the 26 petition cycle. As I shared, remember those 5 areas that each school is reviewed on? You can see here a breakdown by school and by area. The performance area that caused the most challenge was the academic one. You'll see the schools that have been identified as either on ATSI, CSI, or TSI state lists, which aligns to those conditional renewals I talked about on the previous slide. Those were the charter schools. And then the other side is we have our partner schools. Similar breakdown. Here are the partner organizations, the term they expire, and any notes. For example, you see the note here about purpose-built ceasing operations of Carver Steam following the 26-27 school year. And then this is their performance aligned to the framework I identified, with a couple approaching areas in operations and governance. And then last, while that was all the work, there's work behind the work, and that's our strategy management system. So this is the work to ensure that we're continuously improving. When we see our data not meeting our goals, how are we having conversations with the team on what's working and what's not working? Here are some of the areas we're continuously improving. This summer, we'll be diving deeper with each owner of the different areas of the strategic plan to say, is it working or not? What shifts need to be made? And then broadly, we evaluate our initiatives. This is a new process for us to have a formalized evaluation and progress monitoring piece. We are in the prioritize initiatives section. So we have a list of all the initiatives happening across the district. Next is to say, now, which ones really need our attention right now to determine whether they're having the impact they need, and then building what model supports each one of those. So to just recap, whole bunch of great stuff happening. This is the work for next year. Budgeting, staffing allocations, we're diving deeper into eSPLOST, accelerated literacy model, our transitionings. We have a number of work that we're continuing to dive deeper into. And then this is the data that ties to our work. So we have strong momentum. We're ultimately, seeing higher teacher retention, closing budget deficits, expanding our reach, reducing chronic absenteeism, strengthening post-secondary readiness, ultimately improving student achievement. So while there is room to move, we are confident that we're moving in the right direction. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will start, if you're on my right, for board members with questions. Board Member Howard.
Thank you so much, Travis and team. I mean, incredible amount of work that's been done, really, to me, in a short amount of time. This seems like sometimes long. But just the budget, the facilities master planning, just diving right in to focus tremendously on literacy for elementary and middle and all that's to come. I do want to go to slides 13 and 14. Student support services, I appreciate us, looking at the realities and the surveys we're doing with students that's reflecting, 59% sense of belonging for students. One question, what was our survey percentage? Did we increase for, let's say, high school? Do you have that information here in terms of feedback?
Double checking to see whether anyone from the AMP Up team
I'm just curious if
is
we're
on, but I'll look.
increasing and getting feedback from students.
I think we increased our participation for our AMP Up survey, which captures the sense of belonging. I don't know the participation rate on the Georgia climate survey off the top of my head, but we'll get that information too.
Okay, great. And I think you get my point. I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
see, are we getting feedback in this area from a cross-section of students?
Exactly.
And I guess also, looking at the strategies we've used, how we're shifting depending upon what we're seeing as being effective. And I know a lot of work is being done in this area, is to come, progress around out-of-school suspension and that dropping, restorative practices being put in place and implementation, but looking at, obviously, at Promise has been a part of this, but knowing, even as we're planning with hubs and things of that nature, to say, what do our students need outside of school? What else are we doing to really lean in this space to make sure that we are structured, and what else are we going to need from this board in terms of support? Policy is important, of course, but implementation is the most important piece. So anything that can be shared right now around support services and what we're really leaning into in this space.
And while timing comes up, this was also one of the recommendations from the student advisory, was talking a lot about kind of those student-staff relationships, ensuring you have someone to go to.
Absolutely. I always love hearing back from our students on this subject. Culture is extremely important.
Yeah, good afternoon, Board Member Howard. So our most recent conversation was a collaborative conversation between actually discipline and student services around how do the sort of the positions that live right underneath the directors collaborate and plan together across student services. And so we had the conversation last week, to your point, around moving forward into next year, getting better about providing services and support to schools. What does that look like to reorganize those individuals so that they're more tightly connected to provide better support and service to schools? So the initial conversation right now in response to the date is really around structure and how do we get tighter with making sure we have the right people in the right places.
Thank you for that. And I guess I'll be looking forward the board receiving updates on how we make sure we're best supporting this
Sure.
work. Clearly, people, the
Yes.
right people are extremely important. And as we're planning and budgeting for these things in the future, because understand there are a lot of things impacting our students outside of school, and we should always be that safe place where students feel supported, and what that's going to look like for our schools as we even look at how we're shifting in our supports and what school looks like. And then, of course, I think at the hubs as well. So I think we're in a prime place for this, and I think this has got to be a huge area of focus.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
Thank you, as always, for a great presentation. These are the kinds that make you just kind of want to clock out and go home for a little bit, because it seems like the kids are doing well, but I know we have a lot of amazing progress to continue to do for our students and families. I want to kind of jump straight to slide number 8, and I believe that is the one where we talk about being the district on the rise. And I just want to call this out because I think it's a really powerful graph. If you kind of look at 2017, it looks like the lines have flipped. From us being below other similar districts to now us, outperforming other similar districts. And I think that that's a really important thing to call out as we kind of get closer to those COVID levels. So thank you guys for everything that we've done there. Can you give us some perspective on what are some of the key things that we may have started doing in 2023 before some of us joined the board to get to where we are now for reading and math in this on this chart? Sorry, I didn't mean to make you sit down.
That means working on the Rolodex back to 2023 to see.
Right, make it easy, right?
Okay, so thank you for that question, Board Member Mitchell. 2023. A couple of things I think we did in 2023. That would have been the year where we capitalized on summer experiences for students in particular, where we looked specifically at that time, it would have been map data. Yeah, we were using maps. So map data to identify which students should attend summer school or Power Up. And then we designed Power Up around what those identified gaps and needs were specifically. And the afternoons, in addition to identifying the right supports in the area of reading and math for those students, we also provided a lot of hands-on project-based learning opportunities for those scholars. Then moving into the 2024 school year, there were still some remaining practices around intervention that were still in place. We were using things like maybe Read 180 Systems 44. They were very prescriptive and prescribed programs from the previous school year. We had simply launched them and piloted them in the previous year, but got a little bit stronger with implementation the year following summer school. And so what I would say is one thing that is likely a connection there is the strong structure around the summer learning and how we tied that to the specific interventions in the following school year.
That's helpful.
Oh, and the science of reading, that is right. So then we also launched the readers or leaders because the state did require the implementation of science of reading at that time. And we did that through the initial Readers or Leaders initiative.
No,
And the training of teachers. Thank you.
we did a lot. We clearly did a lot. So no, I appreciate
It's
that.
a team approach.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But it's something that I want to highlight because I think that we made some really great strides. And I think that as we're being thoughtful about the approach forward, you know, we talk about those summer programs and how we're doing a little bit more on the counseling side. We have more kids, students seeing counselors this summer. Like, I think these are the things that move us forward as a district. So I really appreciate seeing this information. I want to jump backwards a little bit to slide 5. We don't really have to go to slide 5, but I know there we talked about just our 2030 goals and like what we want to see as far as universal pre-K and pre-K and 3K. How are we tracking on those goals to date? I know that's it's a great foundational space to kind of lean into. So just wanting to understand like where we are as we look to get to closer to 2030 on getting closer to a space where universal 3K is more likely for us as a district.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to the expert.
Sure.
Oh, there she is, Dr. Mincy.
Hey, I would hate to ask a question for a question, but how are we tracking on the budget? We are ready to do some things.
Okay.
But lifting universal pre-K and expanding comes with a financial implication.
Absolutely.
So we started having conversations around what can we do. We're looking at different hubs. So we're looking at the purposes of the different community hubs that we have. We're also looking at the predictions for enrollment. So one of the things about expanding our pre-K, our universal pre-K, is you have to have numbers in a community in order for the state to approve funding for that particular area. So in some of our areas, the states are saying that we don't have numbers or enough enrollment that will be coming through a community, versus there are some areas where we do have some high numbers. So we've also thought about what does the budget look like in order to lift this. And so as we are considering budget implications and making different moves of school consolidations and things like that, we have thought about what it could look like minimally to lift a pre-K 3 and 4 learning center. So those are conversations that we are having, that we are excited about. We do believe that we have the staff, we have the energy, and we do have numbers in some of our places where there are long waiting lists for parents to get into pre-K. We do have the demand there as well. We just have to put the numbers, the dollars, with our sentiments.
Absolutely. You know, I would love for us to continue to look at, like, as we talk more about our hubs, I know we're talking about expanding those out, and I know in my district in particular, we have Dunbar and you have Stanton, two places that are primed to be hubs in those communities. I think this is perfect. It would be perfect to have an opportunity like pilot something like that at a hub. I would really want to expand and look at what those possibilities are. But I just think it's a great foundational space for us to lean into. And then my last question is slide 10. And on 10, we see some from our 2025 baseline to our 2026 progress point. And I'm looking specifically at our ELA. We went up about, looking at this one.
Well, just to pause, we don't know yet.
We don't know
We've
yet.
got
Okay.
it yet. So
Okay.
our goal, our progress point that we're striving for in many of these areas is what's in that middle column.
Gotcha.
We are waiting for the milestones results to come in.
And that's fall.
And that will be in this fall.
Well, then I will have a question for you in the fall. So thank you very
We'll
much.
be ready.
Point of clarity around English, right? It's November-ish, so it'll be a little bit later. I'm guessing, and I'm looking at Will Melton and Kathy, I'm guessing the state will roll all the other data in August to allow the embargo to be lifted, and then ELA, because of new standards, will be later in the fall, right?
You're exactly right. So, yeah, early August and November.
But stay right here, though. I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to say, so I have Will standing right here. So, but preliminarily, though, as we analyze the embargo data, we are seeing. Nope, leave it alone. I got it. Okay.
No. I'm gonna step in.
I'm too excited.
I think what you can say is that the leading indicators, right? They have traditionally been fairly strong indicators in regards to performance. Let's leave that there.
Got it. Thank you. Board members there.
Thank you for that. Thank you for my colleagues for their questions. And Mr. Norvell, thank you for staying. I mean, part of what makes a strategic plan work is the discipline to stay on it, to not go to the next bright, shiny thing, but to stick to the KPIs that we identify and report them. And thank you, Dr. Johnson, under your leadership, that makes sure that we stay focused and we keep the main thing. And let's make the main thing student achievement, which there's a lot to like here. A lot of this external validation from this Harvard-Stanford project, like Board Member Mitchell pointed out, and then also on the AP. I really like the AP results because not only are we seeing increased participation, but we're also seeing increased success. And often you don't see both those things move in the same direction. I did want to pick up a little bit on what Board Member Howard talked about on slide 13. Do we know any? And you don't have to, I guess this is more a question for y'all to be thinking about as you're coming at this, because this could be a leading indicator if students are feeling disengaged, for us to maintain the momentum of progress that we're making. And there is kind of a theme here of students either in a sense of belonging, staff-student relationships. That one particularly catches my eye. Do we know this, if have you all looked at this by subgroup or by grade span? Because is this an elementary problem? Is this a high school problem? And if you don't know, I'm not expecting to put you on the spot, but I guess my ask is that we get into the weeds on this one, because it really the remediations are vastly different based on who's being impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to dive deeper into these. And then just a note is these are some of our only perception-based key performance indicators. And so we also have some work to do to determine how aligned and causal are some of these, perception indicators, leading indicators for attendance and discipline. And so that'll be a part of the diving deeper into it. Are these the right indicators that are leading towards attendance or discipline?
Very well. And then just the last thing I'd ask to consider is, do we have a sense of how this data would impact our listing on the various state lists? Is it? I know there's a lot of moving parts to that, and that's not. I'm not saying that that's true north, but that seems to capture a lot of attention. And so, do we have a sense of if there'll be movement? I know we're trying to project milestones. We have a projection of where we would be on the state list, or it's too uncertain to make any kind of estimates.
Are you referencing this data specific or holistically, all of the
No,
components?
I mean, as the next iteration of lists come out, and I guess we don't have to get to it now, but in the future, it'd be interesting to know what y'all think where we're gonna land. Like, are we gonna make progress?
Yeah,
on that?
I'm happy to turn this to the data folks. I'm happy to turn this to Forestella Taylor. Do you want to talk a little bit about the work you all are doing and broadly what you anticipate of our schools that are, yeah. But they're good. They're good people that have a lot to share. They're doing good work, so I want them to highlight their work. So.
Good afternoon. I love how the entire team said it's embargoed. Yes, the data is embargoed. As I've shared with you all before, you do know we have a priority schools team. And so a lot of the work that we have done for the entire semester is increase the focus that was already being conducted by all of my colleagues. So what that looks like is a lot of work around data, examining the data at a higher level, specifically focused on subgroup data, special education for those schools that have been identified as ATSI or TSI, responding to walkthrough data, instructional walks, and then supporting schools with the information that we're obtaining from those walks. So not just walking the school and identifying opportunities for growth, but supporting the work around those opportunities for growth. It's a lot of collaboration with our state partners from Godot. Those schools also receive a higher level of leadership support because leadership absolutely makes the difference in schools that are turning around.
Thank you.
Colleagues on.
Hello, Mr. Norville. Mr. Norville, I always get it. I really like it when you present. Can you tell me again, you said I was right about something, me and Dr. Casey Brock. What slide was that?
It's not on the slide. It's not.
Actually, I don't even know if we put it on the slide. We just talked about it because it is so new.
Well, say it one
is
more time. I like
we
what you
talked
said.
about the amazing work that professional school counselors do across this nation, particularly in Atlanta. And summer advising should not just be done in the 180 days of the school year. And so we're offering summer advising program this summer where students can sign up. I think it's 2 sessions. I don't know if Shelley wants to come up and talk a little deeper about the process. We already have over 130 students signed up to meet with their counselor this summer.
Hey, and while she's coming up, Nicole, could we pull up that link for counseling?
So that's just a sample of what we have been given to our families, right? So we have videos and robocalls and mailers and flyers and yard signs, and what you're getting are the mailers that our families received. So yes, there are 2 sessions. The first session will start June 8th through the 26th. We have 4 sites where our families will be able to go and receive the personalized counseling and advisement. North Atlanta, Booker T. Washington, South Atlanta, and Midtown High School. We also have a virtual opportunity for our families, July 6th through the 10th, and you'll see that. And there's a QR code, and so no matter where they are in the city, they can scan the QR code, sign up. And so as of right now, and we were pretty proud of, because as of Friday, we had 112. Today, we have 133. And so the push out is working, and so thank you. And we'll take the clap. Thank you. Absolutely. To the team.
Are you bringing in reinforcements? What?
I wasn't sure if you had any additional questions. We were just going to be available.
Yeah.
Okay, no. So my for that one, thank you. Thank you for letting me know I was, that we did something right. All right, the second one is the pre-K program. Now, here at Cleveland, my concern was that we only had, I think, 2 positions open. Me and Ms. Hill were at a meeting. Are we promoting it some kind of way so that parents know that it's available to them and we need to let them come to us, maybe give us some flyers at the other facilities, YMCAs? I don't even know all of the, board member Tony Mitchell knows because he has little people, but I haven't been in a nursery in a long time. Are we putting up our flyers to show that we're a better option?
Yes, we've put out flyers. We've also sent out emails, like email blasts. It's also been on our social media as well. We actually had the highest amount of applications. We surpassed last year's applications this year, and we did that much earlier on. So we can see the benefits of the expanded efforts to make sure that we recruit. We do see some areas, a few areas where even with the expansion and the intentional recruitment from our early learning team, where we still have some lower enrollment. But my understanding is over the summer in some of our areas is where we get more numbers, and that's usually the pattern. So we're still hopeful that we'll get more parents to enroll over the summer.
Thank you. And this is just my charge. I don't know how much it costs for us to promote on V103 and all the stations that we listen to, but I want our parents to be aware of it so they can come in and utilize it because we need it. We can't afford it, but some of us may not even know it's there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Brooks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so one of the first questions, can we pull up slide 13? And I appreciate board members Howard and Dr. Zeff highlighting this one. I appreciate the highlighting of the connection between a sense of belonging and student and staff relationships. I think those things are like one and the same and extremely synonymous. As somebody who has the great pleasure of sitting through professional developments all the time, I've noticed, especially since COVID, that most PDs have decentralized any conversation around culture, climate, community fostering relationships, anything in those likes. We're like so hyper-focused on what we perceived as a learning loss and turning things around, and it was all focused on curriculum. I would encourage us to be thinking about how we can center enrichment opportunities for teachers that honestly foundationally are just focused on culture, building relationships with young people, how to make connections. It's almost as if we're not focused on the soft skills that teachers need in order to be effective in what they're doing as much. And this is not just like me espousing something about APS. I just see this to be true like across education. And I would love for us to really start looking at culture as being an academic tool that we have to be good at to do our job. Page 14, and this all kind of goes into the same thing. It brought up in next steps, restorative practices frameworks. And I've always said, it's hard to restore something that has never been built in the first place. And what I know is, and Dr. Johnson and I have talked about this, I've carried the flag on this since Dr. Johnson has come in, we need a focus on peer mediation for our young people as well as conflict resolution. Our young people need to be taught how to navigate conflict. It cannot simply be about, we're gonna make it better after you've crashed out. We gotta teach young people how to go through things when they're at their most tense. And I charge us, because I've not seen us as a district since I've been here, be focused on those two things, peer mediation and conflict resolution. And I would ask us to do that, especially we see it, the rise in violence, et cetera, throughout the city. We gotta do our part. We gotta do our part. And I feel like I'm preaching, so I'm sorry if that's how y'all feel, but I just wanna highlight those things. And the last thing, and this is what I could get a response for, this is on the pre-K. Do we have numbers and commitments already? What is the threshold that the state needs in order to give us the allowance to have a new pre-K service? And where is there like the most known interest? I know you spoke to there being wait lists in some places. And overall, do we know what the demand is? That was like 5 million questions, I'm sorry.
I'm pulling up my numbers, but yes. The first question, I would have to lean in a little bit more with the state and with our director of early learning to find out the actual numbers and the cutoff for where the state will fund another classroom and what the projection needs to look like. But I will say that we worked with our internal staff person here in the district office to talk about those predictions, to then align it with what the external numbers and the predictions were saying as well. So I did have a little bit of a pushback of what the prediction numbers were saying versus what we're seeing, because if we've got the numbers in kindergarten, then the numbers should also be there for pre-K. So that's just the disconnect that that I've seen and that I've lived it. But I can get back to you with that particular question. And pulling up the enrollment numbers. So for the cluster breakdown, in North, I'm just gonna go down the list. Is that okay? Go down the list? All right.
I appreciate it.
All right. So in North Atlanta, we have a total capacity of 212 spots for pre-K. Out of the first choice students, which are students that are zoned for North Atlanta, we had 397 families apply for the 212 spots. And then in Midtown, we have a total capacity of 152, and we had 292 families who are in zone to apply for those 152 spots. And then in Jackson, we had a total capacity of 192, and we had 283 families who are in zone apply for those spots. In Farrell, we have a total capacity of 100, and we had 55 families apply for those spots. And this was as of April. And then in Washington, we had 92. We have a capacity of 92, and we had 40 families apply for those spots. In Carver, 60 for the capacity, and 34 families apply for those spots. In South Atlanta, we have 100 seats for capacity, and we had 31 families apply for those spots. And in Douglas, we have 120 seats, and 28 families apply for those spots. But I do not have the updated numbers for today, but those are the numbers as of April.
All right, so I appreciate my colleague having an emotional movement next to me because I think she's expressing exactly what I feel. Can we explain for why our communities that have the most need for child care cost burden relief are the communities least utilizing the relief that we're offering today?
I cannot answer that today, but I can follow up with an answer. We're asking the same question. We do have a lot of recruitment efforts. And like I said, we did see an increase in numbers. We just haven't seen an increase in numbers in certain areas. But again, my understanding is over the summer is where we get more. There are certain families that apply much earlier than others. And over the summer, we get increase in numbers.
Is it, and this is my last question, I'll digress. Is it fair to say that if we're making a big strategic bet on expanding to universal pre-K, that we have to do a better job at improving enrollment for the pre-K seats that we offer today?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think there's not a single answer to why some are registering at a higher rate earlier than not, right? Like, I don't think it's a single put it on the radio, make flyers, do all those things, but I don't think a single one of those things is going to drive enrollment. It's a combination of all of those elements that will help us drive enrollment. But I think the fact remains when we look at our third grade literacy rates, when we look at early post-secondary matriculation, the earlier we can get students in high quality literacy programming, the higher the propensity is to be successful. So this is the right conversation and where the work should be. I think there's a lot of work to be done that's bigger than just the school district around solving for how do we get students, families to engage in early learning in a meaningful way really early on.
There's no question the kids who are using our pre-K services in those areas are getting the better outcomes out of our entire district. And I encourage us, I think we got to have a lot of energy around not only what we make available to folks, but making sure that folks know the good news. Because clearly folks in North Atlanta, Midtown, Jackson know about the good news about our pre-K services. And we got to do a much better job at making sure that folks on the south side, southwest side are aware of what we have to offer too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, I know recently we had an event, we had another recruitment event about 2 weeks ago at TAG. It was called Fun Fest. We had a lot of our partners. We partnered with United Way, and they funded like free meals for parents, free libraries for parents. And we had a lot of parents that came to that event and registered their child for either kindergarten or pre-K.
Thank you. So this sounds like I'm sorry, Dr. Johnson.
Well, I was just going to mention, like, some of this is a real enrollment conversation as well. Like, with the concentration of enrollment where it is, so.
Thank you. I was going to say it just sounds like a great follow-up ask for the board. I want to make sure we close out with the final questions so we can move on. Board Member Brock.
All right. I feel like the post-sec team is probably about to be sick of me. Sorry, y'all. But my questions are all related to that right now. The first is I'm so happy we're doing the 2 weeks in the summer. I had a lot of questions about that last time. I won't bother you with a ton of questions about it. My biggest one is just I want to make sure we don't miss an opportunity to capture data there. My dream is that a student comes, we have a track of which student is there, were they present, what school are they coming from, and then after that, we're able to track through the year and see what the changes are in that student so that by the spring, we have an actual proof point that it's working. Because then I feel like if that's the case, it's something we could very easily, not easily put in the budget, but something that we could advocate for to say that it works. And just like a few metrics I thought of, like for example, changes pre-post meeting, did they retake the SAT or the ACT? Because maybe that would help their profile get a lot better. Do they have a college list when they come in? And do they have one when they leave? And how does that change over time? I think those types of things feel really important to capture. And something we talked about in our last policy meeting is we don't have a great tracker or a great idea right now of who's tracking what, where in terms of, is it Naviance, is it Overgrad, is it SCORE, is it School Links? However, this could be an opportunity if we do as a district say we want to nail down one of those, we could use that potentially to track through the year to kind of see what the progress is of this. So I just don't want to lose that opportunity. And then we're like, it was great, but then we don't have as much data as possible to say that it works.
Thank you.
No, you did give that recommendation last month, and I'm going to ask Dr. Dennis to come, and we did look into some options for the district that we will present to Dr. Johnson. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. Officially, this is my second full month, so I'll say this. But from our last meeting that we had a conversation discussing the possibilities of how we can improve our counseling advising component. So from the last meeting, we did have meetings with outside partners to see how we can have that platform, what it looks like, what it could entail regarding having students from K through 12, how we can monitor their matriculation through their school career. So we're looking at a platform that will actually speak to how we can advise and monitor that very question. What we're doing now, we're just in the process of really going through the demo phase and seeing how it really works with APS and what our expectations are. So with that being said, going back to the summer advisement, we're designed the summer advisement as a pilot program for the 4 high schools that Ms. Grisham stated, South Atlanta, North Atlanta, Washington, and Midtown. So visiting those schools, speaking with the principals, speaking with the school, the counseling department, and students alike, the question is, how do we ensure that every student from K through 12, they're prepared and decided by the time they graduate? And speaking to that, going over possibilities of making sure that if they take an SAT, if they did not take the SAT, what are the safety nets in place to ensure that? So right now, I'm going to invite Ms. Wilson up because she's going to go through what that advisement piece looks like and what that platform can bring to our district.
Is that something we can get as a follow-up?
That can be as a follow-up.
Sorry, I just had one more very quick note, and nobody has to answer a question on this. I'll just say it. Going last is just not fun. It's okay. So the other thing is on slide 15, I know we looked at like college writing or, like how many students are graduating, all of that. But I do think that something that's like missing a little bit to me is just thinking about that college readiness piece. I know we talk a lot about it, but just explicitly calling that out because as we all have experience with someone in our lives or some of us professionally, a student graduating and then going to school and not getting a degree, but with debt is honestly heartbreaking, and I've seen it way too many times. And I unfortunately know that a lot of our APS students are having that situation. And so just wondering, is there a way as we're measuring that data that I know we've seen it on certain slides, but I don't know if we'd want to add that as something that we truly just really want to work towards as a district to improving that metric because that feels really important. And I had a couple other things, but I'll save them for my next meeting with Dr. Johnson. And just, I didn't start with saying thank you all for all of the hard work you're doing. I know this isn't easy, and I think we do have a lot to celebrate. So just thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you. And our student representative, Henry?
I just
Mr.
wanted
Henry?
to add that, I often hear that students don't feel connected at school and that they really just don't have, a sense of belonging, and that they don't see a reason to come. Or to care. And when they feel disconnected from school, they often don't apply themselves academically. So what is specifically being done to increase that student sense of belonging and increase access to trusted adults in order to make them more successful overall?
So some of the things that we are seeking to do is, one, to hear from students like yourself, to really understand specifically school by school, student by student, what would make you feel like you belong in school? What are your interests? What are some of the things that you and your peers would like to see in the way of either extracurricular activities, in the way of programming, in the way of counseling, and so on and so forth? And so really just having direct, honest conversations with students like yourself to gain more knowledge about what you all will need is one of the ways that we're seeking to do some of that work.
Thank you all so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Norvell. Dr. Bracken, ready for financial update and budget.
All right. Good afternoon, Board Chair Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Johnson. Today, I only have two brief topics related to finance. The first is our monthly financials for the months July through April. And then I'll provide a brief overview of the FY27 final budget, which will be before you tonight for final adoption. With the next 4 slides, we'll cover the FY26 financials for the first 10 months of the fiscal year. By the end of April, we had collected about 89.75% of total resources, with local collections at 97.02%, state at 70.99%, and other at 79.43%. This is ahead of pace for revenue collections overall as compared to last year. Last year by May, we had collected a total of 90.55% of total revenue, and this year we're at 91.16%. On slide 5, we see budget to actual expenditures so far for FY26. We've currently spent 79.26% of the budgeted allotments, and spending in all functions is appropriate for this point in the fiscal year. And here we show the current spending trend for FY26 against the 25 trend. By the end of April last year, we had spent 77.61% of our total annual spend. Currently, we're slightly ahead of pace at 79.26% of budget, primarily in the areas of instruction and in student transportation. Please remember that the timing of large expenditures and budget adjustments can impact year-over-year comparisons. Detailed financials can be found in Agenda Item 10.3. We have no budget adjustments to bring to you this month. And Agenda Item 10.4 includes the detailed information report for special revenue adjustments less than $1 million that have occurred in May. The second half of my presentation will walk through the FY27 proposed budget, which will be before you tonight for final adoption. The budget you will see has not meaningfully changed since last month when the tentative was unanimously adopted. Tonight's vote will culminate a many months-long process to get to a final budget recommendation. We are so appreciative of all the voices that helped to shape this budget proposal, including community, parents, and staff, and, of course, our students. Across both groups, the request was to fund additional opportunities and programming across the district and to continue to invest in competitive teacher salaries and professional development. Here are the main takeaways that we want to highlight for the FY27 budget. This is the first balanced budget since FY 2023, which means that we are using no fund balance to build this budget. And even more impactful is the fact that we're able to return $10 million to our residents and other taxpayers by reducing our millage rate from 20.5 to 20.3. We are committing to long-term investments around curriculum, literacy, and additional programming with more than $37 million earmarked this year and over the next 5 years. We are caring for every child with a $10 million additional investment in exceptional education programming. And of course, the highlight, we are able to give additional step increases and a cost of living increase. For most people, that would be around 2.5%, and that will increase our budget by about $19 million. Overall, resources are expected to grow by about 1%. Local revenue increases are based on very conservative growth in the digest, along with increases to TAD pilots based on current year actual collections. We have received our FY27 QBE allotments and expect an approximate 4% growth due to increases in state health, TRS, literacy coaches, and a cap to local fair share. Expenditures are up slightly with investments to salary, curriculum, state health benefits, and offset by closures of 2 charters and other reductions. Tough decisions were made by my colleagues in order to focus on the instructional core. Our work, of course, is never done. You were just talking about this. Our goal in the next budget, or should revenue come in higher than projected in the current year, is to further invest in high-quality universal pre-K, additional community hubs, and individualized student success plans, a goal that is shared by our students. Overall, we are requesting that the board approve a budget of $1.6 billion, which includes the consolidated general fund at $1.3 billion, special revenue at $87.1 million, SPLOST at $174 million, nutrition at $40.6 million, and student activity funds at $4.5 million. While today's presentation was brief, I'd like to direct the audience to a wealth of materials that are available on the APS budget website. This is from our previous budget commission meetings, public engagement sessions, board meetings. There's a budget book, budget primers, and other materials. All previous meetings can be watched on the board's YouTube channel, and individualized school and department sheets can be found on the budget website. That concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Bracken. I'm going to start to my left.
Equity. I don't have any questions.
Any other questions on my left?
I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Dr. Bracken. Thank you for sharing. I broke the code in my head eventually of what you're sharing with those numbers. So I appreciate it, and I'm so glad that we have a balanced budget. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you so much. All right.
I feel like someone needs to ask you a question to pay off your hard work.
Right.
Is the what is our fund balance then at the end of this year, since there won't be any movement in next year's budget? What percentage are we at?
Sure. So we do have all of the slides from tentative adoption in the appendix, if anybody wants to find those there. And the fund balance chart is here. So this is showing our historical use of fund balance. This year, for FY27, we are targeting a use of 0 fund balance. And what that will mean is that we will end this year with a budget, a fund balance of about 11.68% of expenditures. And next year, because the expenditure budget is higher, the percentage will go down a bit to 11.58% of expenditures.
And remind the public what our target is.
Yeah, so our targets are between 7.5% and 15%, but internally we have a target of 12.5%. So we are a little bit below of that internal target, but within the threshold of 7.5% to 15%.
We're making progress. We still got a little bit of work to do.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Really quick question. We can't waste first questions on you guys sound that way. So really quick, I'm looking at slide 13 on our tentative additional investments. Do we have a sense of what this costs?
Yes, so high level estimates, and really it's more about how far we would go to expand each one. So just high level numbers, the ongoing operational costs, so not any facility cost or things like that we might need to stand up, but like the operational cost for a community hub is about $1 million a year. I think the preliminary numbers I've gotten from the team for standing up the universal pre-K and expansion would be about $2 million a year. And some of those individual success plans, I would have to reach out to the team to see if they have some estimated cost for those. And again, just like with our accelerated literacy models, it depends on, do we roll out at 3 schools, 5 schools, 10 schools, and how we scale those.
Thank you. I always want to make sure that we get those numbers out to the public, just in case someone is listening and wants to just drop that out of the sky. So thank you.
So one thing I would just mention is, I think in total, when you look across the strategic plan to 2030, it's about 60+ million to fund all the things. And then perpetually, obviously, that number increases. So just, the goal with this slide was to put out, if we had a little bit of extra money, what we would do. But based on where we are within our budget cycle, we don't.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Board Member Howard.
Yeah, just to double tap on that, because I keep saying 60 million. Like, that's what we're saying we need, and we have to invest in these things. These are priorities, and we need to dig deeper to see exactly how we invest in them, which we've been talking about. But again, kudos to all the work you've done, Dr. Bracken and Dr. Johnson and team, to have a balanced budget and be able to provide what we're able to with tax relief for our property owners too, as well as the investments we're making in staff around our instructional priorities and academic priorities. But we are planning for the work we've got to do. So we are going to need more. And then that, goes to the other slides that are shared here. And I really want to make sure people focus on how we've got to make more investments. So we are going to need the revenue to do that. But again, to be where we are right now, and thank you, Ken, for bringing up fund balance, because we know there are a lot of things out there that we don't know. And we're going to have to make sure we're prepared. And we're not going to have more money from the state necessarily. And the federal government, we already know that is the situation. So thank you again for making sure that we're in a healthier place financially, and they're really prepared to invest even more in our students based on their needs. So looking forward to definitely voting for this budget tonight, and appreciate my colleagues and all their support and input.
Sorry, Representative Henry.
So looking at this budget for next year, what are some specific things that students should expect to see in the classroom with these changes?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great question, and it came up last month as well. So I think that our instructional people spoke to it last month. I'll call them back up so you can see. Primarily, I think what you're going to see is in the curriculum that will be provided. And so They can talk about the deep investments that we're making there and how it will show up in your classroom.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So at the K-5 level, there will be an investment with new curriculum related to math. And so there are two different vendors that will be utilized, just as ELA with HMH and Benchmark. There will be two different vendors that they were able to be selected from. Also, at the middle school level, there will be new math and science textbooks as well. And so at the middle and high school level, we will have those curriculum resources for middle and high school, as well as courses in the AP. In the past, we haven't had curriculum resources for AP courses, and so we will be able to invest in that. And so I see you smiling. So we will have resources for those students who are taking AP courses in math and science. In addition to our assessment platform, we will be utilizing as well to deepen mastery and tracking the mastery of students with instruction. We will have an assessment platform that we have invested in as well.
Thank you. And just one quick correction. I was so excited that your name was John Henry. It's Mr. Collins, John Henry Collins. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
John
sorry
Henry
about
Collins.
Okay. Is that everyone? Okay, Dr. Johnson, I'm going to turn the floor back over to
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Bracken. All right, for our last presentation, update around policy. And we will start with our monthly policy. Which one is first, Carolyn? Awesome. Great. So we'll pass to board.
The guy with the hat.
We'll pass it to Board Member Brooks to give some context around this policy, and then as we get to the TAD Review Commission, we'll turn back to Board Member Brooks to give some context, and then we'll take off. So let's Board Member Brooks.
Thank you. We're on TADS first, correct?
Screen time first.
Tom? Thank you. I saw folks getting up in the back of the room. All right. Thank you for the opportunity just to introduce this policy. Good evening, everyone. Last year, the board took an important step to protect the learning environment through our student cell phone policy. And since then, we've seen positive results from reducing distractions and creating more opportunities for students to engage with their teachers, their classmates, and the learning happening in our classrooms. Tonight's screen time policy is a continuation of that work. This policy is not anti-technology, nor is it an attempt to eliminate technology from our schools. Technology remains an important instructional tool and an essential skill for students to develop in today's world. In fact, while some may ask whether technology should be completely removed from classrooms from our youngest learners, we must recognize that Georgia's academic standards require students as early as kindergarten, first grade, and second grade to communicate, create, and demonstrate learning through digital means. Technology literacy is no longer optional. It is a fundamental skill. The question before us is not whether students should use technology. The question is whether we are exposing students to technology in ways that are developmentally and academically appropriate. That is the guiding principle behind this policy: age-appropriate exposure, thoughtful implementation, and intentional use. This proposal recognizes that technology should support learning, not replace the relationships, discussions, collaboration, critical thinking, and hands-on experiences that we know are essential to student growth. Research consistently shows that most effective learning environments are those where students receive high-quality, teacher-led instruction. While technology can enhance learning, direct instruction remains one of the strongest drivers of comprehension, proficiency, knowledge retention, and ultimate mastery. The goal of this policy is to ensure that technology serves as a tool in support of great teaching, not as a substitute for it. As a classroom teacher, I know that the most powerful learning tool in any classroom has never been a device. It's always been a great teacher. This policy also directs our administration to begin reinvesting in physical instructional materials and textbooks and core content areas such as English, language arts, mathematics and science, which we just heard about, and social studies, while continuing to leverage technology where it provides clear instructional value. In many classrooms, particularly in mathematics, technology can provide real-time feedback, individualized support, and learning opportunities that would be difficult to replicate otherwise. So this is not about choosing textbooks over technology or technology over textbooks. It's about finding the right balance between both. Across the country, districts are beginning to reconsider the role of screens in the classroom, and Atlanta Public Schools has an opportunity to be among the national leaders in establishing clear, thoughtful expectations around instructional screen time. This is not about going backwards, it's about moving forward with intention. So just as we took action to address personal devices in our schools, we now have the opportunity to continue that momentum and ensure that our classrooms remain places where students are actively engaged and connected to one another. I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
It was already on. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Board Member Brooks. That concludes my presentation. All right. Hey, everyone. I am Dr. Mincy, Senior Literacy Officer and Executive Director of Elementary Curriculum and Instruction. Good afternoon to our Board Chair Johnson, Vice Chair Zeff, the members of the board, Dr. Johnson, our student representative, and members of our community joining us in person and online. Today, I will provide an overview of the APS practices, recommendations, and considerations that inform the development of the board's screen time policy. Before I begin, I want to share a quick story. But when people talk about screen time today, it can sound like technology in schools is a new thing. But I'm going to date myself just a little bit. When I was a youngster in school, I remember one of my favorite computer games to play, and it was a lot of critical thinking. You know where I'm going? Oregon Trail. How much strategy did you really need to use to make those decisions? And it was on the floppy disk, and I'm talking about the real floppy, not the hard one, but the actual floppy disk. So long before tablets, smartphones, and artificial intelligence, schools were already using technology as a learning tool. So the question that we'll talk about today is not really whether or not technology belongs in schools, but the question that we're going to talk about today is how do we make sure that we're using it wisely? And like Board Member Brooks said, how are we using it in an age-appropriate way? So I'm going to walk you through our screen time policy and explain how we are approaching technology use in a way that prioritizes learning, balance, safety, and responsible implementation. So in front of you is a timeline, and this timeline helps to tell the story of how technology has evolved over the years. Before COVID, many districts, including ours, use the TIMS matrix, and that's what you see on the left side of the screen. This TIMS matrix was used to guide technology integration and to make sure that students were active users versus passive users. Technology was viewed as a tool that could support engagement, collaboration, and deeper learning when used appropriately. But then it came 2020. Like districts across the nation, we rapidly expanded access to technology to ensure continuity of learning during an unprecedented disruption. And candidly, as one of our board members have already stated previously in a conversation, many schools across America likely overcorrected after the pandemic. Devices became more prevalent, digital resources expanded, and in some cases, screen use increased beyond what many educators and families felt like was ideal. As students returned to classrooms, educators, parents, researchers, and even pediatric experts all began asking the important use about technology usage. As a district, though, we have spent the last several years intentionally migrating away from extended and overuse of screen time and returning to many of the instructional practices that existed before the pandemic, including the use of physical textbooks, hands-on learning, teacher-led instruction, collaborative learning, and purposeful technology integration. This next slide is very important to this conversation, and we thought that we needed to get into the weeds just a little bit. So on the slide, you see 4 boxes, and these boxes are just a snippet of the Georgia Standards of Excellence K-12. So one of our standards, multimodal standards, require technology. So in the past couple of years, the state of Georgia has rewritten the ELA standards. So for our friends at home that may not understand standards, standards are learning expectations that every child has to master. There are about 10, 15 standards per year that you have to master, and they build upon each other. So in ELA, the state has redefined in ELA the definition of what a text is. So a text is not just our traditional printed text, but text also includes broadly any vehicle that is used to communicate meaning, tell a story, or build an argument. So also another vocabulary term that was introduced to our standards is multimodal text. And that means that you can see a text in a variety of ways. One of the ways that we know is the traditional printed text, but text is also now considered to be digital as well. It could be a website, it could be a podcast, it could be a video, because we know that those means also communicate meaning and also tell stories. So one important consideration that we have to consider today is that technology is embedded in the Georgia Standards of Excellence. It is a requirement. Beginning in kindergarten, students are expected to engage with multimodal text. They read and analyze not only traditional printed text, but also, with the help of an adult, digital, visual, and even audio text. Likewise, the way the standards are written, what you do for reading, how we teach children to understand text, we then teach them how to write text. So you learn as a reader and you learn as an author as well. So likewise, even starting at kindergarten, students are expected to create texts that include digital, visual, and even audio elements as they communicate their learning. This means our responsibility is twofold. We must continue teaching students to read physical books, write by hand, and engage in traditional learning experiences. At the same time, we must prepare students for the literacy demands of the world that they live in. So that leads us to this slide. If you don't get anything else from this slide and from the policy, is the word balance. And that's why you see the scale in front of you. So this slide represents what we believe in. What we believe is the heart of effective instruction. Technology should never replace great teaching. Look at the right-hand side. We prioritize academic, non-digital learning. Students learn through discussions, hands-on experience, teacher-led instructions, physical books, writing, problem solving, collaboration, and direct interaction with teachers. Digital resources are one part of the learning environment. That's what you see on the left. It is not the entire environment. When technology is used, it should have a clear instructional purpose. What we submit to you is the importance of screen value. Technology should help students create, analyze, research, collaborate, or demonstrate understanding. There is a difference between active use of technology and passive consumption. Our expectation is not all screens, but our expectation is not no screens. Our expectation is balance. And the strongest classroom and teachers are those who thoughtfully combine non-digital and digital experiences to meet instructional goals. So I would be remiss if I did not talk about safety, monitoring, and partnership with families. So as important as it is for instructional balance, it is also important that student safety remains a top priority. So this slide highlights several safeguards currently in place. Adding to what's missing on the slide, we did leave off by mistake the up and away, the previous cell phone ban policy. We take it a step further with our screen time policy. With one of the new things is just making sure that we added in not issuing one-to-one devices to students in kindergarten and first grade. We do want to talk about some of the things that are already in place. One of those things are parents can opt out of device usage at home. We also utilize a monitoring tool called Securely to help promote safe and appropriate technology use. This is great because parents can also monitor daily activity. As a parent, I would get my weekly email, and it would tell me all the things that my child, the activity my child was participating in at Sutton Middle School this year. I was able to lean in and say, hey, notice you were on this website. Tell me about that. So parents have that option to get those alerts and to have the information. Parents can also take it a step further, and they can set up parameters for what the students can participate in on the device at home. Each year, students also participate in digital citizenship learning at the beginning of the year that helps them develop responsible online behaviors and decision-making skills. In APS, we know that technology access must be paired with accountability and full alignment with instruction. Teaching students how to use technology responsibly and safely is a priority for us. I've got 2 more slides. This one is one of my favorites. So as you can see on the slide, you've got a picture of professional learning, because we're going to talk about how we have layered PL. And I also want to just shout out, we've got our Director of Instructional Technology in the room, but we have a dedicated team of district coaches that are specific to how to ensure that instructional technology is integrated appropriately in our classrooms K-12. Another thing you see is a picture of the actual books. Hashtag board member Brooks, bring back the books. That is his thing. Okay, so you have an actual picture of the textbooks that students received during our adoption this year in ELA. And then our pride and joy you have on the screen is our APS K-12 instructional framework. This is a framework that is designed and aligned to how the brain learns, the science of learning, and it helps with mitigating overuse of technology. So one of the most significant steps we've taken is the adoption of high-quality instructional materials that include physical textbooks and print resources for students. This year, students receive physical textbooks in ELA, and as we speak, math and science instructional materials are being delivered to our schools as part of our most recent textbook adoption. Students will continue to have access to digital versions of these resources when appropriate, providing flexibility and accessibility for learning. Families who would like physical textbooks to come home are encouraged to contact their local school regarding the school's process and availability. In addition, our district instructional framework is designed in a way to promote strong teacher-led instruction and minimize the overuse of technology. Teachers remain the primary instructional resource in every classroom. To support high-quality implementation, principals, instructional leaders, and teachers participate in ongoing professional learning throughout the year, focused on effective instructional practices, balanced technology integration, and student engagement. Now, while no district gets implementation perfectly, we are committed to continuous quality improvement. And I know that we've received lots of Let's Talks and emails, and we're engaging with our community. If families are concerned about what they're seeing or hearing from their child, we encourage them to partner with their school. Often a classroom visit, a conversation with the teacher, or a discussion with school leadership provides a more complete picture of how technology is being used in the classroom. So this final slide brings us to our recommended screen time guidance. Now, these recommendations are intended to provide guardrails while still allowing teachers flexibility to meet instructional goals. There will be occasions when students exceed these recommendations due to writing projects, research activities, assessment, presentations, collaborative learning experiences, or if our students are enrolled in AVA or in Georgia Virtual Academy. One of the significant shifts in some national conversations has been a move away from focusing exclusively on the minutes and toward examining how technology is being used. The American Academy of Pediatrics has also evolved its guidance to emphasize not only screen quantity, but also screen quality. And that perspective aligns closely with our policy. We recognize and respect the concerns of parents who want to ensure children are not spending excessive amounts of time on screens. We have the same sentiments. As we develop these recommendations, we consider current research, developmental appropriateness, instructional expectations, Georgia's academic standards, and feedback from our stakeholders. As a result, we established a maximum recommendation of 60 minutes per school day for students in grades K2 and a maximum recommendation of 2 hours per school day for students in grades 3 through 5. For middle and high school, we did not establish a prescribed daily limit. Secondary learning experiences vary significantly by content area, course requirement, research demands, and student products. Instead, we established a guardrail that technology use should generally not exceed half of the instructional period when appropriate, while still allowing teachers the flexibility necessary to support those learning goals. These recommendations have been heavily discussed and intentionally designed under several considerations. We also recognize students must learn to navigate, analyze, and create within digital environments that are embedded within the Georgia State standards and the modern world. Our responsibility is to strike the balance thoughtfully. In APS, we believe technology has an important role in learning, but it does not replace the role of the teacher. The teacher remains the center of instruction, and technology is a tool that supports teaching and learning. As a district, our commitment is rooted in the same principle that has guided our work, and that's back to the basics. Back to the basics means strong teacher-led instruction. It means students reading physical books. It means writing, discussion, problem solving, and hands-on learning. It means classrooms where teachers lead learning and technology is used purposefully as an added value. This policy reflects that commitment, a balanced approach that prepares students for the future while remaining grounded in the fundamentals that matter the most. This concludes my portion of the presentation, and our team and I look forward to your follow-up questions.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and start on my left. Any questions we might have?
This is special. Thank you for that presentation. I just have a couple of questions. Like one, I'm on the policy committee, so I know we've had some pretty extensive conversations about this. And I think every other day I send Board Member Brooks some kind of article about it. Thinking about like the spirit of this policy and what you know to be true, and you may not be able to answer all of these, like one thing I'm thinking about is, what is this about, right? Like I think about when I was playing Oregon Trail and getting my oxen about 30 years ago. Like what were my parents saying? What was a school board saying about technology back then? And thinking about like what the right call is for right now. But of course, looking at that point of 2020 and what happened feels really important because it just happened so fast, right? There's nothing we could do about it. But just thinking like, is it mental health? Is it student outcomes? Is it students being social and being able to communicate with each other? And I just like put those out there because I do think we're all realizing it's gone too far. But there's also that piece of me that's like, what is the actual challenge we're solving for? And then the other question I have is about outcomes and wondering, are there examples of scaling back technology and then that leading to better student outcomes? And what does that look like? And what are the proof points there? Two more. Okay. The other one is, and you can answer whichever ones you want. Okay. Just thinking about the culture shift that would have to happen here. I'm sure that's something that's already on people's minds, but if we were to implement an actual policy, thinking about a newer teacher who maybe has been teaching for 3 years, who got really used to this style, what does that look like changing the culture of a school? And then the last one is just around parent engagement, and just thinking about the privilege, that exists with having the time, the opportunity to go up to a school and ask questions and poke and prod about technology, and just thinking that to me, the purpose of having a policy is so that if a parent doesn't have that opportunity to be able to do that, that we're making sure that we're doing right by them in the school. So you can answer whichever. You don't have to answer all this.
That's great. Well, I'm gonna. We've got a document that we can share with you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about student outcomes, and then I'm going to have Dr. Rachel talk a little bit about what her team does and how they use technology to really foster collaboration. Because when you think about passive consumption, you could think about mental health, how I'm just on the computer the entire time. I'm not having opportunities to socialize. Her team does a great job with countering that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the outcomes. One of the resources that we have that we could share with you is around fact fluency practice, for example. So we're moving in elementary, we're definitely introducing science of math. And one of the things in science of math is getting back to fact fluency and the importance of children understanding their facts. We're trying to get those friends ready to get to Dr. Payne's section, and that's secondary. We have used a few digital platforms to help with the improvement of fact fluency, and we've got some student outcomes that we noticed with our map, also with embargo data that we can't talk about, but we've seen some correlation with how there have been positive impacts with using digital practice with fact fluency and math. The other part of it, I want to talk a little bit about, I don't want to name a platform, but in phonics. So we have, we as a district, we do not prescribe a certain amount of minutes that are required for students to participate in a platform. There is a platform that works on a personalized pathway for phonics and building up foundational skills. We saw in the data that students that did not participate in those prescribed times, they perform more than students that did participate in those prescribed times. You won't hear us say, you need to be on a device this amount of time on a personalized pathway. We feel like it is important it's appropriate, it can help, but you won't hear us say, you've got to do this amount of times, as some other districts might require. So that's one of the things that's a difference for us. So I can see where it's appropriate for us to really lean into the teacher. And that's what I told the vendor. Like, no, thank you. I hear you saying maybe we should be on the device a little bit more, working on those pieces. But for us, intentional, explicit instruction in phonics led by a teacher is what we prioritize. And also we can see where active use of technology with fact fluency practice and things like that have also led to some improvement in student achievement. I could talk more about my experience as a principal, but I know we have limited time. I'm going to let Dr. Rachel talk a little bit more about collaboration.
Good afternoon, board members, Board Chair Johnson, Superintendent Johnson. So my name is Dr. Natasha Rachel. I'm the Director of Instructional Technology, and I think we've interacted with almost every board member at this point. I have 2 content integration specialists and 10 integration specialists that are boots on the ground in the schools. Sorry, I'm going quick. In the schools, working with teachers and students to make sure that technology is effectively integrated into the content. We collaborate deeply with Dr. Menzies' team and Dr. Payne's team. I'm trying to go quick. Collaboration, yes. So our students, and you will never hear myself or any of my team members say, use technology for the sake of using technology. We are really going in, showing active ways to use technology. I know several of you have worked with our Z-Space machines, augmented 3D reality machines, our merge cubes. I know Board Member Brooks, Dr. Brock, you have been engaged in our Ville labs that you've seen. And so just lots of really good things that are happening. Our students, we're encouraging them to create, we're encouraging them to produce, we're encouraging them not to be consumers of the technology, but active users of the technology. And so that's just a little bit about what we do. I think we've seen everybody at this point in our labs, and so definitely looking forward to continuing the conversation and the collaboration.
Thank you. You're doing a great job with the labs, by the way. So.
Thank you. All right, Board Member Brooks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for digging deeper into the presentation. Wanted to highlight just a need around digital citizenship, digital literacy, and e-commerce. I just see a huge opportunity for us to do more, especially around our secondary and middle school students and seeding that entrepreneurial spirit. I believe there was a law around I believe it's like student use of technology or something that required districts to create a course around digital citizenship. So I would just ask us to be more intentional about that and it not just being kind of a workshop or a one-off thing, just something that we center more as what we do.
Yeah, so great question. We are in the process of creating a digital citizenship course that all of our students will take in the fall. It will be based around Common Sense Media, and that's Senate Bill 351 that you're speaking of. We've been working with Carolyn's team on that. So lots of things in place around social media use, digital citizenship for our teachers and students. And so we already do digital citizenship every year. We start in August, and it rolls all throughout the year at our schools. And so we will continue to be intentional about that going forward.
Wanted to pull up the spreadsheet with the guardrails. And I wanted to clarify that for the P2, the approximate 1 hour is a cumulative hour for the day, or are we talking for a learning period?
It's a cumulative, both pre-K to 2 and 3 to 5. That is for the entire day. And then also we have built into the policy that to have those 30-minute chunks. So it's not a full 2 hours or a full hour, but chunked throughout the day, yes.
Yes. I was looking forward to getting this spreadsheet. I think this was kind of the one open part of the policy that we were continuing to look forward to hearing back from you. I have some questions about the 6 through 12. I'll be transparent with you. I don't love it. I still think that at 50%, and again, I'm open to the science, the rationale, all the things to learn more. But to me, 50% still seems like a high percentage of the instructional time. And I understand that there needs to be carve-outs for specific things, right? Like a lot of our math classes use digital platforms, very different. Some of our science, same thing, very different. But I fear it being maybe a little too liberal for some environments where it might not be appropriate. And I really want for us to focus on direct instruction and that being the main thing. Yeah.
And we attempted to build that language in just to make sure that even with the recommended time, you'll see that it says no more than half the class, but it is also a priority on teacher-led instruction, discussion, the writing, the collaboration. But where appropriate, there are times, for example, even in 3rd through 5th grade, where students will have to sit in a certain amount of time just to write because they get 90 minutes to write a full, complete, to type a full, complete piece, writing prompt that is aligned to the state of Georgia. So students need that type of practice. But when they're working on project-based learning, when they are collaborating around text, and even when they have to create multimodal text and when they have to consume multimodal text, we're putting that type of language in just so teachers still have that flexibility in order to meet those instructional goals.
I received the tug and the pull, and I really appreciate you for explaining that more. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Board Member Hutcherson?
Yes, thank you. I want to just say thank you so much for this presentation of digital, I don't even know the word, but my baby niece, when she was born, she knew how to use that device before she could even talk. So that's a moot point. But love is what I wanted to pick up from Reverend over here. There is one school, and mind you, I'm a traditional educator, so I'm always going to promote traditional education, but there is one school that I went to and visited, and I saw Ms. Tomko here earlier, and I'm not asking her to, oh, she just waved. I'm not asking her to come up and do a presentation, but that is a culture of love. They love their books, love them. Like they give them to them as little treasure maps, and they grow as they go. And so while I know we have to have these policies and it's very strict the way we do things and we want to have, but love, let's give it a chance of love. It's beautiful to have this, but when you go and see that culture of the Atlanta Classical Academy, see how he just wrote that down for me. Ms. Tomko, it was beautiful. And I think we could do the same thing just with an intent of love and culture.
Thank you. Board members on this end, any critical questions we can answer? Love wins. Go ahead.
I'll be really quick here. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for bringing up Oregon Trail. I think I died of dysentery way too many times. So, really quick question. So, outside of the professional learning that we have for our teachers, what types of accountability guardrails do we have for teachers to kind of maintain screen value and I put versus instructional excellence in this space? So, just trying to get an understanding of like how we are keeping teachers accountable in this space.
Right. So I know for our team, we are definitely a team that supports and offers guidance. The accountability lives at the school. The accountability lives at the school level. And so with an understanding of instructional excellence, with the implementation of our K-12 instructional framework, those are mitigations that should create environments where students are really promoting active use when they are using technology, because there are times where you're not using technology all throughout the day. The accountability lives with the monitoring from the school leader and even the principal supervisors as well.
Is there anything that we could add to this policy that could bolster that?
Is it the regulations section?
Yeah, probably, maybe in regulations. Let us work. I mean, we're open to, continuing to evolve. This will be first read consideration today, right? So, so we've got some time. Obviously, July. I know the board doesn't meet. We can come back in August and continue to refine. I think one of the things we want to be intentional about is like the implementation of it, and so having this lead time. Time associates, teaching learners in front of principals starting tomorrow for summer work. And so they know this conversation is ongoing. We meet with principals every Friday, and they know this policy is out there. They're preparing, and then that allows us to prepare teachers. So we continue to look at that accountability. But some of those structures in and of themselves help to drive some of that accountability because we're already talking about it, and folks know it's coming. And I want to say it's not there are areas, I want to be clear, there are areas where it is a big shift. There are areas where it's not at all, and more so some refining of some work. But we've been having really strong conversations throughout the course of the year about explicit instruction and standards and, leveraging text and writing, like all the basics. Like we've been having that conversation all year.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that there's often a gap between policy and practice. And I want to make sure that we're being intentional about what that looks like and how do we close that gap. So that was the only reason I asked that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Real quickly, I appreciate my colleagues' questions. And I'm thinking about the same thing, accountability and support, especially high school. And I think, there are best practices within our own system right now and how, to Dr. Johnson, to your point around supporting high quality instruction, like we're already focused on that. So this should just reinforce that. Because I know my kids, I've been a customer, 2 graduates now, so it worked. APS worked very well. But they wrote a lot by hand, I noticed, their junior, senior year. And that was just so refreshing for them. And we hear so often from students, obviously with Student Advisory Council and just in general, like the need to be away from the devices, but understanding too, based on subject matter, and appreciate Board Member Brooks talking about just the different subject matter, but how we're really going to support that for teachers. Because certainly we don't want this to be punitive. This is more supportive. And also just want to say thank you to all the people who've already provided feedback and Let's Talk and emailing us to support it, because it will take that leaning in, like Board Member Brock was saying too, to make sure families understand why we're doing this. We really want to see the focus on outcomes, but I think we're already seeing some of that and how we can pull that data and really highlight that and then leverage that within our own system. So thank you all for the work you've already done, and thank you to the policy committee for really focusing on this.
Thank you. Mr. Collins?
I want to talk about the student perspective a little bit. So I've been an APS student since elementary school, middle, and high school, and I've seen that evolution of technology use in the classroom. And especially now, every single one of my classrooms, or every single one of my classes, I use technology and I turn in all my assignments online. So this shift from using technology every single day in every single class for probably 75% of the learning time. 25% is instructional, a lecture, and then we go into our work sessions. So how would that shift? How would we manage that from students that are so used to, and teachers that are so used to this focus on technology and, this reliance on it almost, and bringing that down to making it more, learning that's actually engaging students without technology and turning in things by hand, doing things by hand without technology. How would that shift work?
Yeah, so we will have professional learning for our teachers. So this was the first year where we implemented a K-12 instructional framework. And so it provided teachers guidance of how to engage students at the beginning of the lesson. So that may be with the SEL, right? Building relationships, hooking, having something that's going to pique your interest. And then it goes from the engaged to explicit instruction, where teachers are actually doing that hardcore teaching, vocabulary development, teaching the content. And then it goes to apply and assess, where students are able to utilize the gradual release process, where a teacher may model it for you, and then you work with a partner, and then you might work alone. And then at the end, you're assessed on that standard or skill. And so we need to go deeper in our instructional framework, which we are going to do this year with Teacher Clarity, and then providing examples as well as metrics around that, right? So with the instructional framework, we have percentages of what percentage of time your teacher should be doing and engage. We don't want to watch videos the whole entire time, right? We just want to pique your interest and then move on to the actual teaching. And so we want to dig deeper into how do teachers really unpack that instructional framework. We have a curriculum resources now. We have new textbooks with math and science, and then ELA is just year 2. So really going deeper with our teachers with professional learning on how to utilize those curriculum resources and how to properly use technology within that. So we don't want you to do passive usage where you're scrolling, or we want you to do some really intentional research, whether you're using, a website to do that, whether you're using citations and ELA, whether that's lab work and science. So we really want to provide teachers with examples on how to use that. And then it differs between 4x4 and 4x8 schedules, depending on that.
We know you all are super passionate. Didn't mean to cut you off there, but
we won't talk about TADS now, Chair. Can we talk about TADS?
We want to lean into TADS. Let's do it. So I know we have one more presentation, and thank you all so much.
Thank you. I'm going to yield to Madam General Counsel Gupta to make a statement real quick.
Yeah, so we're ready to start talking about the policy creating the TAD Allocation District Investment Review Committee, or the TAD IRC. And I just want to point out there's a Scrivener's error in the policy that's on the agenda, so I just want to point that out so we're all on the same page. If you look on page 2, under Establishment, the first sentence says the Atlanta Board of Education hereby establishes the TAD IRC and Administrative Committee, et cetera, et cetera. That should read the Atlanta Board of Education hereby directs Atlanta Public Schools to establish the TAD IRC, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll make sure that gets updated simply.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Today we're introducing a policy to establish a Tax Allocation District Internal Review Council, or TAD IRC. I think we like that acronym. The purpose of this council is to strengthen transparency, accountability, and public engagement around decisions that have long-term implications for Atlanta Public Schools. This policy creates a structured process for independent review and community input through a council composed of appointees from each board member. This council will review existing TADs, proposed extensions, and future proposals, and provide recommendations to support informed decision-making. This is an advisory council. This policy also directs the TAD IRC to produce a comprehensive report by October 2026, evaluating the return on investment of APS participation in TADS and assessing their benefits and costs for the district, students, and families. In addition to examining financial impacts, the council will review whether community commitments associated with these partnerships have been realized and how TADS have affected housing stability, enrollment, and long-term vitality of our school communities. Beyond the initial report, the council will serve as a permanent mechanism for oversight and accountability, helping to ensure that community commitments remain a priority regardless of changes in board membership, district administration, or city leadership. This is not about supporting or opposing any particular TAD. It is about ensuring APS has a consistent, transparent, and student-centered process for evaluating proposals and understanding their impact. There should be nothing about our schools and families without us at the table, and this makes sure that we're at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Brooks. Briefly, I'll introduce Ms. Bonnie Lapwood, who we've poached from finance to lead on TADS. Been doing a lot of work in the TAD space in general. Organizationally, as the board looks at review committee, it makes sense to have somebody that's waking up thinking about this as a big portion of their day. And so, Ms. Lapwood, will you take us through just briefly, just a very brief review, and then we'll look at the policy really quickly. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Good afternoon, board chair, vice chair, board members, student representative. My name is Bonnie Lapwood, and I'll be speaking to you about board policy BFB, which would establish this tax allocation district investment review committee. To give a little bit of background and context regarding the tax allocation districts, and you may have seen some of this information in Dr. Bracken's Budget Commission and board presentations, there are 10 of these tax allocation districts that have been created in the city of Atlanta starting in 1992. APS started contributing to these TADs in 1999 with the West Side TAD, and has contributed since that time to 9 TADs. One of those, Atlantic Station, closed last year, and its revenue has returned to APS this fiscal year. But APS continues to contribute to 8 TADs. And those contributions and that participation is governed by intergovernmental agreements. These agreements include payments in lieu of taxes every year, known as pilots. And these agreements have also included community benefits. This is a significant investment, and the establishment of this committee would provide a formal structure for evaluation of TAD performance, consideration of future TAD participation, and input regarding community benefits. This table gives a summary of each of the 9 TADs. The first year that they went into effect, the year that APS began contributing, the total APS tax revenue that has been directed towards each through the end of last fiscal year, any payments in lieu of taxes or pilots that APS has received, and in the case of Atlantic Station, revenue that has come back to the district. There's also some notes here about prior extensions. The West Side TAD, Atlantic Station TAD, and Perry Bolton TAD were previously extended. This is an example of a tax bill for a homeowner in the Perry Bolton TAD. When an Atlanta homeowner receives a tax bill, they can see that Atlanta schools' taxes make up the largest portion of their taxes due. The only indicator they would have of whether or not those taxes are going towards a tax allocation district to fund redevelopment is the district that's listed on the bill. In this example, Perry Bolton, the tax allocation district has grown about 89% since it was first created. So once these taxes are collected, 89% of them, which is considered the increment, is directed to Invest Atlanta for redevelopment projects, and APS only receives the same amount of revenue that it received in the beginning year of the TAD. This is a significant investment for APS, and it's a significant investment for taxpayers. This committee will provide a framework to review this participation and provide oversight, accountability, transparency, and stewardship of these public resources. The committee will consist of 9 members, 1 appointed by each board member, and will meet quarterly at a minimum. It will also engage the community to be able to inform recommendations based on community feedback, and will produce an annual report summarizing their findings. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And so I'll definitely start with my colleagues, but before we get in, I want to remind us that we're not here to recommend what we should do or express opinions, but to really ask clarifying questions specifically as it relates to the policy around the TAD Review Committee and its purpose and its primary purposes for today. With Katie this time.
Really focusing on what you just said too, which is very helpful. Good reminder. Thank you for this presentation, these slides to get directly to the point. Really appreciate the example of a tax bill. I think that's extremely important. 11% goes to APS at this tax bill. 89% is increment, which we know that's an increase based on the agreements at hand, would come back to APS, the closure of TADs. That is money we should get because there's an increase in property value. Being that the Beltline is the largest one, what is the percentage of that 89%? Of like when we say 11% goes to APS, like the Beltline would be, that's a tricky and the weeds question, but that would be a larger percentage of the amount that's going to Invest Atlanta, correct?
Yes, and the amount that each TAD has grown varies. To the amount of taxes directed towards it varies. For the Beltline TAD, I can tell you the growth percentage. The Beltline TAD has grown by 685%. So the vast majority of the taxes there are getting directed towards it.
Thank you. And then with the review committee, just ensuring that it's long-term, that these individuals would be in place for, many decades, honestly, not those actual people, but the committee really looking at this, not as a short-term, like we're just checking this out right now, but to make sure we're tracking this and the impact, obviously, to APS over time, because these are long-range decisions that we know have an impact now and will going forward. So just ensuring that folks know we're not doing this to be, to make a point or be performative, but that we're doing this to really understand the impacts to APS and ensure that this committee has the structure it needs to be in place for a long time to really provide that analysis for the district.
Thank you. Board Member Mitchell. McDonald.
Thank you for this presentation. Thank you, Superintendent Johnson, Board Member Brooks, for breathing life into this idea of, I think this is a responsible government step for us to take to get thoughtful about how we're committing big investment of APS resources. Just a simple question: is the mandate to the committee going to extend beyond just financial, but also into terms such as, does APS have approval of projects approved by Invest Atlanta, then maybe come before this body to also seek approval, something that wouldn't be financial in nature, but would be process in nature? Is that also within the scope of this body?
Yeah.
Yes, so the committee would be, so the committee would be taking a holistic view of this investment as the policy lays out, not just the fiscal impact, also the community impact and any community benefits that may be provided or required. long-term and short-term revenue considerations, looking at things very holistically.
Thank you so much. I want to take a point of privilege and first just thank Board Member Brooks and the Policy Committee for bringing this together so quickly before us, because I think I asked in less than 24 hours. So thank you so much. Okay, who's counting? But thank you all for bringing this before us, because I do think it's important for us to have our own infrastructure in this really big conversation. We do know that we plan to lean into a public conversation with the community at 6 p.m. And so having this infrastructure in place is a really important first step for us as a board. I'll go to my left and see if there's questions.
Yes, could you go back to the slide? There was a table, I forget what the number it was, that one. How much have we invested over the past 3 decades in Atlanta, would you say?
Sure. So at the end of last fiscal year, it was around $880 million. The projection for the end of this fiscal year is, I think, $970 million.
970 million? Okay, and how much would you say Atlanta has received back from the 970 million that we've invested?
So the total.
Did I say APS? What do you mean by Atlanta? Atlanta Public School System. I'm being specific to our school system.
As far as the total pilot payments, every year we get about 30% back of what we would be.
So it's a little over 200 million.
Out of the
250.
976?
Yeah.
Are we looking that more will be received back, or
So
it doesn't sound like it's equal?
As far as the pilot payments, under our current agreements, we get the majority of that from the East Side TAD, as the debt has been paid off. It would really depend moving forward, if any sort of agreement changes or if there's any sort of renegotiation, and that's something that this review committee would be considering and evaluating.
But as of today, Atlanta has invested, by the end of this year, 976 million over the 30-year period, correct? And we've seen maybe in return 200 million. 210, I'll go round up for you, but I can subtract, and it doesn't seem like we're getting much return. Thank you for sharing.
First off, just want to say thank you so much, Ms. Bonnie, for your presentation, but also Board Member Mitchell and I got to go back to our collegiate days. We came in with the book bags, the T-shirts, and the comfortable gear, and learned from Bonnie for about a good hour and a half, just to try to get smarter on this conversation around TAD. So I just want to say thank you for your expertise and for taking the time to help us get smarter about this. To my colleague's point, the idea of a TAD is that we make investments in places where we need the most investment, and that upon the closure of the TAD, the increase of tax revenue that we'll get because of the investment will be exponentially greater than we would have realized as a city without the investment, right? Upon closure of the Beltline TAD in 2031, we will have invested, and correct me if I'm wrong, something about, I don't know, 500 million strictly in the Beltline TAD alone, roundabout. And the projected revenue from the Beltline TAD in 2031, 2032 is something to the effect of about, I don't know, 104 million, or I'd like to get the math correct. But I guess my point is that over 30 years, what has been invested in the Beltline TAD, upon this closure, we will be able to realize the investment that we put into it back within about 5 to 6 years' time. So 30 years of investment will be returned to us 5 to 6 years after the closure of that TAD. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the amount that we've contributed is shown in this table as the APS contribution. This is through end of FY '25, and that is the 351 million here. So that's the amount of our investment. And then you're correct. If a tax allocation district is closed, then the total amount of revenue is returned to the taxing jurisdictions. And we would project the returned revenue from the Beltline if it closed on schedule as starting at 122 million in the first year, increasing annually after that, assuming that the area increases in value.
Could we make the sound assumption that our investment in the TAD has created tax revenue growth in that area at a rate much greater than it would happen naturally?
That's really the theory behind TADS, is that this investment is what sparks the ability to redevelop and the ability to do these projects that increase value in the area. So the contribution is really the catalyst there.
A few of the TADs that are in conversation about extension would include Campbellton, Hollowell. I think there's a few others that are up here. But of the TADs that are being, this is not including West Side, not including the Beltline. As I'm looking at this chart, we've invested 6.2 million into Campbellton, for example, but we have received 6.02 back. So that means we've really only made an investment of about $198,000 in that TAD. Is that what I'm understanding?
We have an agreement for the 4 corridor TADs. That's Hollowell, MLK, Campbellton, Metropolitan, and Stadium area. The agreement is that we contribute a certain amount each year, and anything, any portion of the revenue that is in excess of that amount comes back to us as a pilot payment. So because those were set out as a specific amount, we're getting back the rest of it. And that's according to the terms of the IGA.
My last question is, from your estimation, is there a world that APS will be able to realize all of the things that we're asking for in our strategic plan, specifically around universalized pre-K and our hubs, right? Is there a world that we can get all of those things accomplished and at the same time do our part to help the city invest in areas that so direly need the investment?
I think it's a question of balance, a balance between revenue, our agreements, any kind of payments in lieu of taxes that are agreed to. It's definitely a question of balance, and that is the sort of question and the sort of scenario that this committee could consider.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that I think there are several unknowns, right? Like this legislative cycle, for instance, there were 102 iterations of property tax legislation, right? So I'm using it as a contextual example. It's not literally 102, but there are like real compressionary issues that exist for and on the district, right? Healthcare benefits. I could go down the list of things where we see just in general cost increase that I think create additional pressure for the system.
Thank you so much, Board Member Brock.
Yeah, just very quickly to the proposal page, because I know we have a lot of questions too. Just really excited about this and hoping that my fellow board members and I can come up with a really diverse group of individuals that represent all kinds of thoughts on this, because I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to learn. I always say this as somebody who I have lots of kids around the world, but I do not have children of my own. I also think just also keeping in mind that there's a lot of taxpayers who are not as invested in APS, right? And so just kind of trying to help them also understand like what that investment looks like in our schools and for the next generation, and why they should care too about something like this. And then just kind of something that I'm thinking about and want to continue to learn about is looking at that map layover of our APS districts that have been impacted by school closures versus, and it's not a versus, but overlaid with the tax allocation districts, and thinking about, and this is something that's just heavy on my mind, how do we make sure that we're doing right by those neighborhoods that were so impacted by that decision? And how do we also make sure that we're investing in communities that need it the most? I was at an NPU meeting recently, and they were talking about a certain part of the city, and they're like, yeah, the TADs. And then someone was like, you're not in a TAD. And he had no idea, right? And so I think there's a lot for us to learn. And so thank you for helping us to do that, and excited to learn from the committee and excited that we're doing this.
Thank you so much. And we'll close out with Board Member McDonald.
Hi, so thank you very much. Just a point of edification for everyone in the room and then also the community. Shivi, can you just give a high level on when are we going to make these appointments? What does that first get together look like? When might a first meeting be so people can have an expectation set? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Board Member McDonald, for the opportunity to highlight some of that. I will punt to Dr. Johnson on some of those questions. Well, and honestly, I think Ms. Bonnie is probably going to be one of the most important people to this council, because my understanding is that Bonnie will be serving as the conduit, the connector to the administration and this council. So it's going to have to happen fast, obviously, right? So immediately, probably within the next 2-3 weeks upon ratification today, or confirmation of this policy today, we will begin submitting our appointments as board members, passing that over to Michael, bring these people together, come up with what's the best date for orientation, and hit the ground running. I think the most important timely part of this policy is that we request a report by October, right? Which also too, I want to note, for all the people who, moving fast around the city about this stuff, we're requiring a report by October. So what does that mean? Don't rush us. We will not move at an unnatural pace for anybody in this city. We're gonna do our due diligence. We are going to have the best understanding about what it is that we've got back for the investments that we've already made, and make sure this body is in place. So for anybody who's rushing us, calling our phones, buzzing us about, you support, you don't support, what have you, I think it's very premature. We're going to be informed by our own independent review council, and then folks can sit with where we get to upon that time. So talk to us at the end of the year next year. Thanks.
All right. Appointments in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Dr. Johnson.
I'm going to punt from there to Dr. Barnett. Yeah.
Wow, who knew that policy was this fun? I want people to,
I knew that.
come out and come to our policy meetings, because the spirit of what's happening is in the policy meetings. And so I just want to say thank you to Dr. Mincy and Ms. Bonnie for the discussions that we've had around the policies. I just want to talk about the roadmap to both policies. For the student technology use and instructional materials policy, this policy will come before you tonight for first read. What does first read means? It means after you have approved the policy, if you so approve this policy, there will be additional time for feedback from our stakeholders. We have received a wealth of Let's Talk and emails regarding the student technology policy, and we are very appreciative to that of our stakeholders. After final approval, then we will start developing administrative regulations. We're not going to wait, because the school year is already getting started. So the team is already thinking about the things that they're wanting to do. One of the most important pieces to this is going to be the monitoring effectiveness. And so I want you all to think about, what does that look like for the upcoming year when we talk about bringing strategic initiatives before the board. and then, of course, the report outs for the board. Again, you've all talked about the why around this policy, promoting a balanced approach to instruction by ensuring technology does enhance but does not replace high quality teaching. The support that we would need for academics, literacy development, cognitive development, and our mental health of all of our students, ensuring students are prepared for our digital age, internet connected to our world, reinforcing the importance of high quality instructional materials, including physical textbooks. We talked about the key policy components, balanced instructions, purposeful and developmentally appropriate technology use, priority on high quality instructional materials, and just an overall student wellness. The impact that we should all be looking for is improved student engagement and learning, stronger literacy and academic outcomes when you think about the increase of balancing instructional practices and print-based materials versus digital support, healthier student and well-being. And when we think about that, we're thinking about in the engagement components, and then ensuring that we have future-ready skills and development for our students. And then we move to the Tax Allocation District Investment Review Committee. We've already started the discussion of when the committee should be formed. And so that is the work that the board will be doing after approving this policy tonight, organizing the committee, developing the meeting cadence, and again, monitoring for effectiveness. Like Board Member Howard said, this is not just a one-time, one and done. We want to make sure that this is longevity for as long as APS is Atlanta Public Schools, who influence the world. Why this policy? This policy is just about fiscal responsibilities, community-informed decision-making, and long-term strategic planning. And that is the focus around our board policy, our policy review committee, bringing this policy forward to ensure that when we make decisions in Atlanta Public Schools, that our stakeholders are also informed and have provided their feedback into the things that we're going to invest in. Again, the key components of this policy is strategic oversight and accountability, community-informed decisions and support, fiscal stewardship, student and community impact review, and the advisory recommendations to the board. That is going to be very key. The intended outcomes for this policy is around strengthening our public confidence in APS redevelopment, participation, and investment in decisions, and elevating considerations of how redevelopment initiatives affect our students, our families, our neighborhoods, and our school communities. And so, as I talked about the next steps for the student technology use and instructional materials policy, we will have first read for tonight, we will receive feedback, and then final adoption, and then we'll talk about the regulations and what does that look like when it hits the ground at our local schools. And again, for the TAD-RIC policy that we're calling it, approve the board policy tonight, organize the committee, develop the meeting cadence, and then ensure that we're monitoring for effectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for your reports. Just a couple of quick follow-ups as we close out. The technology policy, we'll be looking for the regulation portion that focuses on teacher accountability. More information on universal pre-K and recruitment, not just for the recruitment, but expansion plans, the tracking and of the new advisement model that we're looking at, and then a deeper dive into the peer mediation and conflict resolution supports that are available to our students. Madam General Counsel, is there a reason for the board to retreat into executive session?
Yes, Madam Chair, the board needs to discuss real estate, personnel, and legal matters.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Is there a motion to enter into executive
So
session
moved.
to discuss real estate, personnel, and legal matters?
So moved, sorry, premature.
Second.
Second. It's been moved by Board Member McDonald, seconded by Board Member Zeff. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.